Hey folks, this week for DFM 201 or Digital Film Lighting 2, I thought I would talk to you tonight about alternative styles of fixtures for your productions. Now, you have the fluorescent kit right now from Focusable Studio Pro, which is the soft boxes, the 3-light kit with the two 4 or 5 circuit heads and the single circuit head in your 3-light kit, so you can do your 3-point lighting. And that's a fine kit. But there's some other styles of fixture out there that I thought you all might like to discuss. It's about time we started thinking about other sources of, output, color temperature, focusability, price range, rentability, applicability to what we're shooting. In other words, are these lights going to help us achieve the results we're looking for? And one of the aspects of the softbox lighting kit that I've noticed that a lot of you folks have had issue with or have had difficulty overcoming was the fact that it's a soft source. So it's giving you this really soft, low contrast, sort of wrappy situation, and it does that pretty well, but sometimes I think what we need or what we're looking for in the output of a light source is more punch, more contrast, deeper shadows, and maybe tungsten color instead of daylight. Because we're using other lighting, say, in an apartment or in our house or in an office that's already 3200 Kelvin. And our softbox kit, unless you gel it, is not going to mesh very well with the warmer color temperatures. So, and you can't combine fixtures in the same frame and then adjust the camera because one color value will suffer as a result of that. So you want all your color values between all your fixtures. You want all those color values to agree. And so you gel lights or you use lights that are all the same color. These guys that I brought here tonight to show you are some tungsten incandescent, so that's 3200 Kelvin color temperature. And they're incandescent, which means they're a what we call a black body radiator, or they use a bulb with a filament. The filament is energized with electricity, and as that filament heats up, it glows. That glow constitutes output, which is one of the reasons why the output is warm in color, because it is a radiant, heat-generating, light-generating electrical device. And they look like these two. These are two pretty small guys, actually. These are referred to as conventional fixtures, and we say they're conventional fixtures because we've been using this style of fixture now for many decades, and as a result of that, the workflow is conventional. But what they are basically are Fresnel Focusable fixtures, and I got one here that I can show you. This might be a little easier to take a look at. This is a Fresnel Focusable 650 watt fixture, and if I get the cable out of the way, you can sort of, see the body a little easier. So here it is. It's got ears on the front. We call these ears or accessory holders, and that's how we are holding the barn doors in place, and little wire exposure control devices called scrims. So this is what the fixture kind of looks like. to hold it out in front of me. You can see it's, using my head for scale, you can see how it's sort of, you know, it's pretty good size, 650 watts. And the idea is you have your bulb inside. See if I can open this for you. It's a little tight. Oh. Gosh, there we go. So inside, you've got what we call the lamp house, and it is controllable by turning this knob on the back of the fixture. When we do that, it makes the reflector situation in conjunction with the bulb move closer or further away from the Fresnel on the inside. And that's what we call spotting or flooding. When the light is in a full flood configuration, the lamp is generally closer to the lens in the front or closer to the Fresnel. In this position, when the bulb is retracted all the way back into the housing against the back casting, that's in what we call spot mode. In other words, the light's coming out at a very narrow beam angle. What this light is designed to do is, as you change the relationship between the globe and reflector, which are these two deals in here. Here's the globe, you can see it from the top. Here's the reflector, which is like a shiny, scooped out little concave dome. As you change that relationship between the reflector and the lens, get it all the way into flood mode, you change the beam angle. So now this would be full flood mode, where the bulb is closest to the glass, and you can see the bulb now on the back side. And the whole idea is it's an aperture, right? So it's a hole that light is going to shine through. So if you take a flashlight in a big piece of cardboard with a hole in it, if you hold the flashlight way back and shine it through the hole, only those straightest vectors that are going through the hole directly will pass through the aperture and continue on to the wall behind you. If you put that flashlight closer up to the hole, now more wider beam angles can get through that aperture, and you'll get wider coverage with your flashlight. Well, this is doing the same thing, and it's doing it by virtue of these concentric rings on this Fresnel lens that this lamp uses. Now, these lenses probably look familiar to you in a way. I mean, yeah, you see them in department stores a lot nowadays, but initially, the Fresnel lens was designed for lighthouses. And the idea was that if you could have a light on the rocky, treacherous coast of an island, say England or Scotland, for instance, and you wanted to warn ships that were coming in from the open ocean to seek safe harbor, you'd want to warn them of rocks and treacherous coastlines, so you'd have a light source that you could turn on and, you know, sort of pan around or revolve around and indicate where the shoreline was. Well, a torch, let's say, or a bonfire radiates in all directions. It has no focusability to it. So that light doesn't carry as well or project like a Fresnel does, because the Fresnel concentrates all the light into a forward set of vectors instead of a wide dispersed set of vectors, or a radiant set of vectors, like a bare bulb radiates light in all directions. The Fresnel only radiates light in a given direction, and it does so at an angle based on this relationship in here. Okay, so you could take a relatively small source, like a 650 watt bulb, and you could project it quite a distance. And in the case of these lights, a lot of them were designed to work off of pipe rigging and things on film studio sets, on stage, in buildings called stages where we work. And these lights are designed to work from 18 to 20 feet away. So there might be times when you wanted to squirt 650 watts of tungsten incandescent light on a piece of the set, and if there's too much coverage from this fixture and you only want it in a specific place, you could spot down the beam and bring it way down into a point source that'll hit more precisely at what you're trying to reach on the set. And then anything else that's extraneous that you don't want, you could have the grips come and cut away with flags, or you could use barn doors to shape the output of your light by cutting down and limiting how much light comes out of the front of this thing. You can see how I can make that lens real dark by pinching these doors way down. Now, only a little bit of light's going to come through that small hole and effectively narrow down the beam angle as well without focusing the globe itself. Once we focus the globe down to the overall coverage we want in the cone of coverage, let's say, imagine lights coming out of this fixture in a giant shape that looks like an ice cream cone, right? So it's emanating from this lens and it's coming out, and as it comes out it gets wider and wider at the base, and it's a circular projection. So if that's the shape of your throw or your beam angle, then you can alter the shape of that as well by cutting off pieces of the base diameter with your barn doors. And if they don't cut enough away, the grips come and they cut more with their black flags. So that's the Fresnel fixture, and I wanted to show you guys because this solves your focusability problem. If you're trying to get, and this is very bright, by the way, when you take 650 watts like this, it's not the same as the 600 watts you can generate, or 1,000 watts you can generate out of your softbox, because that is a non-projected, soft, radiant source. The softbox is designed to be a soft, pillowy, soft, wrappy, radiant source. This is a focused, contrasty, intense output that you can also control, but it renders deep shadows, which the softboxes don't. The softboxes give you nice, sort of kind, open shadows, we call them, where the fill level is relatively high, and you get soft transitions, right? Well, this is designed to give you hard transitions, that chiaroscuro we talk about in week 2 in the horror and sci-fi lighting. The relationship of highlight and shadow and deep shadow contrasts that can be developed with hard light sources. Okay, so let me put that down over here for a while. And so that was a 650 watt. Now, as you are taking a look at the week 1 electricity review, remember that we have considerations with our power sources in the locations that we're shooting in. So, for instance, if we're shooting in your apartment, let's say, and doing a project for class, the energy extracted by that 650 watt incandescent fixture, that tungsten fixture, is going to be more than the energy requirement to power your softbox. And that has to do with the type of light source. So, you have your sort of curly pigtail globes in your fluorescent kit. We talked about, this is the corncob LED replacement bulb for a household globe for your lamps in your living room, let's say. This is a soft, radiant source. But the bulbs in the tungsten incandescent, because they're blackbody radiators, they have a filament, and, oops, I was going to show you one in this box, and it's not here. They have a filament inside, and as you energize it, you get light output. Let's see if I can pull the one out of here. I can. So I flood this puppy out, and I reach my hand in the unplugged fixture. Don't ever reach inside or open up a tungsten incandescent fixture that either has been burning or that is plugged in, because you will very likely get shocked. Okay, so here it is. Here's the bulb that was inside that 650 watt fixture. Now this one is an Osram globe or bulb, we call it, from the theatrical division. It has this is like a G6 base, I think they call it. It's just 2 pins, a neutral and a hot, right? Because it's a 120 volt system. So you have a neutral, and then you have a hot pin, and then the ground is simply attached to the inside of the light, so you don't get shocked. It's called a case ground. And so it's an Osram theatrical globe, 650 watts, and the designation for this, which is not, oh yeah, here it is, FRK. So excuse me. So you could call, say, Visions in Color in Los Angeles, or Film Tools in Burbank, or Light Bulbs Unlimited in New York City, or B&H Photo in New York City, or whoever the theatrical supplier is in your town, and ask for the Osram Sylvania 650 watt FRK globe. And this is what they'll offer you, and they'll ask you for about $23, I want to say, plus or minus, give or take. Kind of expensive. You can sort of see that it has a filament inside, fairly complex actually. It's a lot of curly wires in there made out of tungsten wire, and tungsten wire is a very tough metallic substance that can handle the stress of being superheated for long periods of time and then cooling rapidly and then being reheated as you turn the lights on and off and use them on set. So a tungsten filament is what's inside, and that filament, as it's energized and as it glows and creates light for us, it can expel soot, basically, black, fine, dusty silt that is a byproduct of the burning, essentially, of the tungsten filament. And to avoid that black soot from accumulating on the inside of the bulb and rendering this bulb useless, we fill the glass gas jacket of the bulb with halogen gas. And what halogen gas does is it just sort of surrounds the filament, and as that filament burns and glows, and as it ejects this black soot, the halogen molecules will adhere to that black soot and essentially make that black soot, it vaporizes, and when you turn the globe off, all that black soot will re-adhere to the filament. So in essence, it sort of regenerates the life of the filament by taking that black soot byproduct and making it stick back on the place where it just exhausted itself from. So that's what the halogen gas is for inside these theatrical globes. And so when you buy a globe for a fixture like that little 650 watt Fresnel I showed you, you want to make sure you get a tungsten, which is the color temperature and the filament style, halogen, which is the gas inside, 650 watt, which is the output designation, Osram theatrical globe, which is the general description of this product. So all that information has to be relayed to your light bulb manufacturer or your vendor when you need to order one of these. And of course, this is 650 watts, so inside this guy is a 350 watt bulb that looks very much like this one, almost identical, but it's only designed for 350 watts of output, so it'll have a smaller filament grouping in there. This has got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double filaments, 8 V-shaped filaments in here. The 300 is going to have half as many because it's a 300 watt. This is a 650 watt. And this is a 150 watt Fresnel. It's also a Fresnel. It's got a little tiny concentric lens in there. You can see it's very cute. This is a very small fixture. Look, it's the size of my hand, basically. And what's neat about these guys is, they're focusable. They're bright. They're a lot brighter than, for instance, your LED panels. This is a Favotek Studio Pro 1x1 bicolor, right? It's similar to the one that I have lighting the Fresnels right now. And it runs off of a battery or a transforming power adapter, so you can plug it into the wall. But it's also soft output like your softboxes, whereas these are focusable, bright, focusable Fresnels. If I turn this guy on right here, pow! That's a lot of output. If I take and bounce him, off the ceiling, which is commonly done and a very effective way of creating illumination, you can see it dominates. I mean, it totally washed out what I had going on. That's kind of a nice look too, isn't it? When you bounce light off of surfaces. That's how I key myself every week. I take a fixture like that guy right there, my DOS leashed LED 24, and it's right off camera over here, and I pound that puppy right into the wall over my monitor, and it gives me a nice sort of key light. Well, I just popped that 300 into the ceiling, and you can see I'll do what we call A-Bing the switch. You can see the difference in the look, right? This is a little more dramatic. Plus, I got a bunch of stuff going on, and I'm getting edge lit from that bicolor panel, which is okay, but that kind of looks cool. Kind of looks nice. It's natural too. You see, there's no hard shadows on me because I bounced it. In essence, I've diffused this hard light source. So there's a really important lesson, right? You can take a hard light source. If I turn it and squirt it right at me, it's way too bright. Don't need that much light at all. It's very contrast. He's making really deep shadows. But I can make that power work for me by diffusing that light. I can bounce it off the ceiling, bounce it off a wall, bounce it off of a piece of styrofoam board that I've grabbed with a C-stand. We call that a bead board bounce for styrofoam bead board. And that's a really effective light source on set. And any one of those three solutions, the bead board, the wall, or the ceiling, is going to give you an output that looks a lot like your softbox. So that should be a very interesting lesson for you. You don't need to work with a chimera or a softbox light modifier. You choose your term. You can use a guy like this, 300 watts from eBay, let's say. And as a matter of fact, I found one for you guys online before I started the video so I could refer to it. Here's one from TomTop. Pro Film, 300 watt Fresnel Tungsten Spotlight Video Studio Camera. They put every word in there they could to get your search engines to find their product. And here it is. Here it is. And look at that price. Look at that price. $100. And let's see, let's just scroll down here and see if it comes with a bulb or not. Here's a whole bunch of combinations you can buy this thing with. Blah, 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 blah. That's kind of nice looking. Blah, blah, blah. Does not say what you get. Here we go. 300 watt Fresnel lens fixture. One set of barn doors, and one globe. So there you go. You get the bulb with the light. Now remember, that's a 23, what did we say, about $23 value. So from eBay, from TomTop, you get one of these adorable little focusable guys with barn doors and a globe, a bulb, for $100 and free shipping. Free shipping. So if you want to play, if you want to experiment, right now I think TomTop's got the deal on eBay for 300 watt incandescent Fresnels. You could buy 3 of them and make yourself a little 3-light kit and have, for $300, a second light kit that's balanced for tungsten light now. So if you're shooting indoors in your house or in an apartment or in a building that's lit with incandescent lighting, like a restaurant, use your Fresnels. And you get all of that mileage out of the focusability, and you can bounce them. And you can also put gel on them. We've had discussions about gel. We'll do that on and on in both lighting and camera. Here's a piece of full white diffusion. Call it 216 or Lee 216 or Roscoe 216. And a standard household laundry clip. I call them pegs. Some guys call them C47s. If they want to sound really fancy and in the know, they use a film term, C47. I just say, give me a peg, and I put them on. Some guys call them bullets because they clip them to their sleeves or whatever they're doing while they're working, so they have a supply of these around. And what we use these for is applying our gel to our barn doors. Look at this. Now, this is a little small for the 300, but it's perfect for the 150. And what you might do is put one on the bottom as well to, just to keep it all on there. And then, boom, when you turn the light on, it diffuses the light, so you can actually point it directly at your subject and still diffuse it with this diffusion gel and get a soft effect out of it. So now you've got all these different ways to use these lights. With a softbox, it works one way. You turn it on, you decide how many bulbs you need. The bulbs you want to use, that's for your intensity, right? And then you push it in one direction and it's soft. It doesn't do anything else. Some people are effectively bouncing those off of walls or ceilings to get the ambience in the room lower and the light even softer. But it's still only soft, and it's soft or softer, and that's it. These lights start out hard and contrasty, and we can bounce them, gel them, scrim them. We've got these really nice exposure-controlled devices, and each one of the Fresnels will utilize something like this. Basically, it's a piece of stainless screen, screen door material, with a particular tightness of the weave, as you can see here. This is a one-stop reduction. If you put this in the accessory ears of your 300, let's say, you put it in there behind your barn doors. Now it's blocking the light that's coming out by one f-stop, right? So we can calibrate how much comes out of this light. So we can either use a dimmer, right? In week 4 of this class, we're going to talk about how to use a dimmer on tungsten incandescent lighting and how you can build your own from parts from Home Depot, right? Or you can use this light reducing scrim to subtract one stop of output. And there's also what we call a single. This is called a double, and this is called a single. The single has a looser weave to it, as you can probably see. Whoops, I dropped my double. If I put them both up to the screen, you can see the double is a little tighter than the single, right? So the single is only reducing by half what's coming. I'm sorry, this is reducing by half what's coming out. This is reducing by only 25%. So it's only a half a stop reduction of output from your 300. So if you just need a little less, boom, drop a single in it and you get exactly the exposure you want. Or you can drop a double in on top of that and get a stop and a half reduction, and that's what we call a stop and a half overall, or a double single combo overall. Some people call that a sandwich. Some people call that a burger. And if you add another single to this, so you've got a double and 2 singles, they call it a burger with fries. I don't know where that came from, but that's just set talk. That's lingo on the set that we might use when the lighting crew is working, so that as everybody else is getting ready with wardrobe and hair and makeup, and the camera's moving around and getting the framing set and everything, and we're lighting, I might have one of these burning in the background as an edge light, for instance, and I might ask the guys, hey, you know what, that my light meter is telling me that light is about a stop too hot. Drop a double in it for me, and the electricians will go over. They'll find the scrim bag, which should be hanging on the light, one of the adjustment knobs of the light. They'll take the scrim out of the bag, they'll drop it in, and they'll say, double down. Or they'll call me on the walkie-talkie, double down. And then I'll take a look at it, and I might go back and check it with my meter again, or I might just check by eye, or I might use my spot meter from behind camera to make sure that the value coming out of this now complies with whatever exposure I needed, so it's not too bright or too dark. So all this control that we have over these fixtures. But there are some drawbacks. So we talked a little bit about the energy requirement. So a 650 watt Fresnel is going to pull about 4.5 stops, I guess, 4.5 amps from your service, from the total service of your house or your apartment or whatever. In the review in week 1 of electricity, there's a video about the power formula. And this is where that power formula comes into play, right? So if you've got some 300s on your set, maybe some 150s and a couple of 650s, if you add up all of that wattage, so 2 650s, 2 300s, and 2 150s, well, 2 150s is like having another 300, so that's like having 3 300s, which is 900 watts, plus 2 650s, which is another 1300 watts. So 900 plus 1300 is 2200 watts, right? So you take West Virginia, W equals V times A, volts times amps, and you go 2200 equals voltage. We know that already coming out of the wall, 120 volts, easy, right? Times A, and we don't know what A is yet. A is the ampacity, it's the unknown. So we divide both sides by 120, we divide 2200 watts by 120 volts, and we're going to get the total ampacity, or the total value of that whole system, right? Which is going to be about, I don't know, 18, 20 amps, let's say, 18 or 20 amps. So you better make sure that the room you're lighting in, if all of your lights are plugged in that one room, you better go to the breaker panel and make sure that the breaker servicing that room is good for up to 20 amps. Because if it's not, if it's only good for 10 or 15, once you get going and you start turning your lights on, by the time you get to your, your 4th or 5th fixture, that breaker is probably going to pop off. And you're going to have to reset it, and then you're going to have to figure out why. You're going to have to do your math, figure out why the breaker popped, and then you're going to have to take 1 or 2 of these lights and plug them into a different room and run an extension cord to the fixture on set from another room where there's another breaker that's governing the other place you're pulling power from. So you can do what we call dividing up your load between different circuits so that you don't pop breakers. So this is where all that information starts coming into play and becoming very valuable to you. Okay, and it's a lot more figuring than you have to do with your fluorescent kit. You can plug that thing in all day long, and you can probably plug 3 or 4 kits in the same room and not pop the breakers, because the fluorescent lights are very energy efficient. They don't pull a lot of electricity out of the wall. But the fixture has its drawbacks, right? So you have to decide what tool is best for the shooting and lighting that you're going to do, and then you got to be prepared for the contingencies. Or, these lights are excellent tools, but they do have some requirements and a certain amount of expertise that you need in order to use them effectively. You need to know how to control them. You need to know how to power them up without popping breakers and losing time on production. You need to know how to compensate for the color. And you need to know how to, to work around instruments that, let's say, after this 300 watt has been on for 20 minutes, this thing's going to get hot as the burner on your stove. Okay, that's another drawback to tungsten incandescent lighting, is that because it's a black body radiator, not only is that filament in that bulb getting hot and generating all that light output, but the whole enclosure is getting hot from the radiation as well. So, and I don't mean nuclear radiation, I mean radiation like radiant lighting. Okay? All of that radiation happening inside that fixture is making this thing heat up like your oven. And if you were to touch this with your bare hands in a variety of places, now not everywhere, you can touch the knobs without getting burned, you can touch the yoke without getting burned, the stand block without getting burned, but if you touch the major body parts after this thing's been on for 10 or 20 minutes, you're going to burn your hand. So when you work with tungsten incandescent, you got to have a way of cooling down the room you're working in, like a box fan or 2, or a quiet air conditioning system like we have on sound stages. or have the ability to open a window and fan the heat out of the room after you've done shooting that shot, because it's going to warm up the environment quite a bit. And that's why makeup is always on set, ready to powder people down. These lights will make you sweat. So that's another major drawback. So they're cheap and they're really crafty and flexible, but they suck a lot of power and they get really hot when you use them. So those are the drawbacks you have to manage if you're going to work this way. But when you do work this way, if you can manage those shortcomings, I mean, we've been using these for over 100 years now in Hollywood. So conventionals are maybe a way to go. Or the new LED product. These don't get hot. These don't warm up the room you're working in. They come in daylight or tungsten or both, but they're soft output, so you have to learn how to work with that tool as well, right? Because it does that, you know. So, you know, you pick your flavors and you work with them. Remember the pegs I showed you? You can also use these guys. These are butterfly clips. You can get them at Office Depot or Walmart or Staples. We call them, as a nickname, we call them windy clips, because they work great when you are using these kind of lights on a car rig, for instance, because they hold really well, but they're really small. So they're not as big and bulky as the laundry clip. They're really low profile, and they do just as good a job at holding the gel to the barn doors. So, you know, you can get, gosh, I don't know, a couple dozen of these in a little package from Staples for about $5. You can get the same, about a couple of dozen of these in a plastic bag from Walmart for $3, $4. You can order them from Film Tools as well. These are, you know, disposable essentially. So either way, however you prefer to work. And then when you're done with your gel, of course, we roll them up and we put them in our gel box, and we use our pegs to hold the tubes together, and we just toss them in a milk crate or something so we can use them again. That's another thing that I should bring up about these lights. Because they get really hot, you're going to burn some of your gels up. In other words, this stuff over time will turn brown. It might burn a hole through it if you spot this thing in through the gel and leave it for 5 or 6 hours in the on position while you're shooting a really long scene. You'll probably burn out a piece of gel like this, and you'll have to get some fresh. So that's another liability to using the tungsten incandescent fixtures, is you're going to have to do gel change outs more frequently with these lights than these lights, because these don't get hot. So you can use gels on these and reuse them and reuse them and reuse them until they get all wrinkled and dirty and mangled, and they won't burn up. These lights, they'll burn up after a few days. So you might spend more money on gel with your tungsten incandescent fixtures. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this discussion on focusable tungsten incandescent Fresnels. If you have any questions, as always, you can email me or call my office phone, leave me a message, I'll call you back. Thanks for tuning in with me tonight, and I'll talk to you soon. I look forward to looking at your projects for this week. Horror sci-fi this week. Fun stuff, all right? So, I don't know. Maybe the braver among you is ready to start expanding your repertoire of skills and equipment, and check one of these out off of eBay and see what you can do with it. You can always use them in conjunction with your lighting kit. Gel these blue, like the color of your soft boxes. Match the two sources so they're the same color. Match them to the camera, and you're off and running. It's nice to have projectable lights sometimes, though, to get these nice crispy edges without doing a lot of work. So that's it. All right, have a good night. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thank you very much.